Hi everyone, this week this is Coffee and Tools, and you're looking at episode 8. Wow, pretty cool. This week I wanted to cover something basic, measuring and cutting a piece of wood. Now, we're not all born with this information, so you sort of have to, get it from somebody else, right? What I'm going to start with is just a basic piece of lumber. And one of the things I wanted to show you was, a lot of times if you buy a brand new piece of wood from a lumber store, you'll have this little tag with a little staple in the end of it, and then you might measure out and you want to cut this and say make a really nice 90-degree or cross cut where it's a nice straight cut. What happens is what you start with is what you might end up with at this end, or even worse. So the first thing to do is whenever you buy a piece of lumber like this from a store, is always take your little miter piece, square, whatever, and check what they sold you, because a lot of times it's wrong here, and if you start wrong here, whatever you get here is going to be even more wrong, or at least. And if you're not sure about watching this program today, if you know the difference between take the line and leave the line, then you may not have to watch the rest of the program. But that's what we're really going to talk about today, is take the line and leave the line, and how to get that right measurement. So this is a piece of scrap we picked today, and what we're going to do is we're going to pick a measurement off of this. Now, I've already checked this, and this is reasonably square. It's not a real good nice end on it. So normally what I would do, if I've got enough material, you trim just a little bit of this off, and you have a good place to start. So that's one of the things you want to do. So the first thing we want to do is take this to the saw and just remove the little metal tab, get that off of there, because what you really want to do is pull this off and clean this with the saw first. Make sure it's a real nice good start. And then we're going to measure out whatever distance or length you're going to be needing for the project that you might be working on. Remember, this is just an example of a project, so what we're going to jump on right now is we're going to pretend we squared this up, which we didn't, and now we're going to come up the ruler with a ruler. Now, the other thing, there's a big tip, a real good tip. I like a Stanley myself, but find a good tape measure that you like, that you're comfortable working with, and when you read it, you get a good accurate read off that tape measure all the time. Not all tape measures are the same, so don't just pick one up and say, oh yeah, this one will be fine. Find one that you're comfortable with, that you like working with, and try to stick with that. I stick with this particular Stanley type generally because they're very easy to read, especially when you're working with the measurements, the 1/16, the 1/8, this sort of thing. If it was a millimeter situation with a metric tape measure, it would be a different situation too. This piece of board, for example, is a little over 11 inches long, so we're going to cut it, say, 10 inches and make a nice straight. And the whole thing is, what I'm trying to show you here is you want exactly 10 inches of board when you finish cutting. How do you get that? Well, let's close up here, view, and we're going to take a look at exactly whether we're going to leave the line or whether we're going to take the line. Coming right up.
Okay, what's going to happen here now is we're going to come up to the 10 inches. Now, if we scratch the line right at 10, that means we're going to yell out, leave the line. And that is that the saw is going to have to cut this side of the lumber, but leave this line so that we still have a 10-inch piece to work with. Taking the line is a similar idea, but what you're going to do is you're going to come up just on this side of that mark, and you're just sort of going to just phase that in with the pencil. You can barely see the difference. But what's happening here is, without that other line, I would be taking the line, which means I have exactly 10 inches of lumber left when I do my cut.
Well, that wasn't so hard, was it now? What we did was we measured up this piece of board, and we were cutting it for 10 inches. But what I wanted to show you is there's two places where you could have had that pencil line, and where you put that pencil line is going to determine how good or a piece you're going to get from each board every time you cut. Granted, there's a few other things you could do, depending on the type of saw you're using. You notice I put the line off to one side in this case, because I'm thinking in terms like a table saw or something like that. If I was using a circular, like one of those compound miter saws, that blade comes down in the center of your work. So generally what you want to do is probably put your pencil line in about the center of the board right about here. Little different. And of course you can always do one of these. But you know, you can mark the whole board like this with a piece of pencil. And that's okay depending on the type of cut, again, what type of tool you're going to be using. Because let's face it, the saw really doesn't care about that pencil line, does he? No, he doesn't. And that's why we want that pencil line to be where we want it, to tell us the information that we're going to get that right and get it cut right. And that was only 101. Like I said, it's a simple, this week I just wanted to show simply, cut the line, take the line. The difference is only, what, 1/16 of an inch, but it can make or break your work sometimes. And always remember, clean the end you're starting with, clean that end first. Don't just believe that the lumber store sold you a good piece of lumber. Get it shaved smooth, get it nice and squared up, and then come up the board to where the measurement is you want. And if you do cut a little long all the time, hey, that's great, because you can always, you know, shave a little off the other way. If you shave too much off, then no, we're kind of out of luck. So thanks for watching this week, Coffee and Tools. Everybody have a great week. It's been a cold one this week, and have a great weekend. And hopefully we'll see you next week.